I found the whole thing incredibly fulfilling in terms of prep, because once we started playing, I could just kick up my heels and play the characters that I'd made up and see where you went in the landscape, and I knew it was just going to be, a mess, whatever. Right. And it was okay. I really worked hard on prepping with in mind with, well, you guys are going to be making choices about who you like and who you don't.
Right.
And I tried to do that. It was more so in the second round than in the first. But still, it was the kind of thing I was planning on bulking up as much as I could. I had an idea that there would be kind of a 3-army or 3-region war going on, where A was attacking B, B was attacking C, C was attacking A, sort of situation. So that whatever you did would basically escalate it somewhere, at least at first, or if you approach it simplistically at one particular place, then it would just open up for someone else to come charging in. So those were kind of my approaches. You guys are right about the skills. We used the skills and the skill challenges very much as written. But I went and looked at those writings and thought very carefully and said, what are they saying? They're saying a lot here. Somebody's really did some system work here. Who knows if it ever saw any play, because I never found any account of it whatsoever. The actual flexibility of the skill challenges, being able to tune fighting and skill challenges relative to one another in a given situation, to switch from one to the other, to suddenly shift a skill challenge into a fight, to suddenly switch a fight into a skill challenge. All of those things were right there in the rules. And I really said, okay, I just need to bring this forward.
Right.
And once we did, it made an enormous difference. The whole thing. I mean, I baked a skill challenge into almost every single encounter. So that I was hitting you with, okay, now roll your stealth, now roll your this, now roll your that. And I'm clocking it. Okay, that's one he missed.
Yeah.
All right. It was actually a really good DMing device, but it also really helped that the fight, I really just wanted to get away from the fights being that grinds down. The hit point grinds down. I can't face that ever again. There was.
So they're also very characterizing. That was one of the.
Exactly. It was a very unique.
Was enough to throw a new angle onto Runt's character as well.
Yeah, I mean, we got to actually see what this guy does in this fight, which is different from, my Minotaur in this fight. In one of the games that I was a player in, long before I got going on my own thoughts on this, in the climactic hoo-ha up against the demonic hoo-ha, one thing I noted was that, first of all, play in that group rarely, if ever, crisscrossed our powers with each other for an emergent effect, which is where I was thinking, why aren't we doing this? Second...
that's the whole point.
I know. Second, the DM, who was basically playing this monstrous pile who could do this monstrous damage, kept having this monster foe switching player character targets. So that way, everybody was getting dinked, and maybe dinked hard, but he wasn't driving one down, which was really the smart way to play that opponent, which was to seize somebody and drill into them, and we better fight to save them, or else he was going to die. And so basically he just played it as a large pile that we could all dink down, and was dinking us all down, collectively, and he wanted it that way. The DM was very, straightforward. He wanted it that way so we could win.
Well, that's curious, though, because you lose out on the whole healing surge mechanic and everybody helping each other. Like the game is actually built to.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, I completely.
Even if you're
there is a degree of where it actually feels like if the monster is going after the person who the DM knows has the lowest number of hit points because he's got it in his chart, that you're where it can feel wrong to keep doing that because it feels too artificial. It doesn't feel like the actual.
Well, it does say bloodied after all. The character is visibly bloodied, and so
Yeah,
well,
that's but you would think you'd want to keep going after bloodied. I mean, but I have felt sometimes that there can be a wrong feeling by getting too focused. But yeah, the way you're describing is clearly the exact opposite of it, where it just spreading it out for the purpose of keeping people around. And
Ross, what were you going to say?
I was going to say the system then fights that as well, because that's where your defender steps forward and does
exactly.
the things that make,
it's built.
If you attack this other person, you're not hitting the defender, and they get 3 hits on you.
Exactly. Yeah, you mark them, and so you're like, okay, I got to fight. Exactly. You penalize them for not saying, "Fight me! I am the defender here." And I completely get it. What I should point out that this particular instance of play was one of those box sets, and it was very. I mean, it's heinously railroaded, just heinously.
Sure.
And so the idea, the advice given to the DM in many cases works against what 4E does in favor of plot. And so it's real straightforward. I wrote about it back at the Old Adept Forum and was not sympathetic.
And in favor of not scaring people away from the game.
Right. Well, and it was also built to be played.
If you picked on somebody, they never come back. And
it was built to be played at game stores, and it was built also to be played with multiple DMs playing at multiple tables, and then they would report how many of their players, did they find out X this time or not? Right. It was very, very organized. But it didn't match the game at all, in my opinion. I generally found some fun things about that experience, but you guys might remember my old account of it, where I was given a pre-generated character to play, who was grossly, talking about totally picking the right class and stuff. It's out of Heroes of Shadow, of Reloka, and the class was a Blackguard version of the Paladin. Yeah. And of course I had, I was kind of like, a what? Looking at the sheet. But I doped out that all the powers and feats and stuff actually created a really nice cycle. It was really well built for, it was almost more like a power deck in Magic, where you basically have the same, you have 4 of each card, and so you basically just hit your combo and are able to just keep rolling it. But on the other hand, I was pretty impressed by how easy it was to characterize that person in play and actually play the character. And as such, was not very welcome to the DM when I, used the rules to, basically murder his favorite NPC. Although, to my credit, I knew that I'd read the rules. They didn't actually die. We could keep them alive. I just really enjoyed killing them because that was a really annoying NPC. And and the DM was, I won't go so far as to say that I was the griefer. I will say that the DM was a little bit alarmed that this player character seems to be a little more willful. Than kind of what he'd carefully cultivated in the group by that point. But
how dare this guy a vampire and
I was going to say, I mean, the total Blackguard Paladin Reloka, who was irritated at this NPC who jerked them around and shot arrows into them, son of a bitch, No, we're going to drag you back, The guy's like, well, I give up, you can take me to the Duke. And I'm kind of like, yeah, we'll take you to the Duke, all right. Slippery fucker. You've gotten away before. I know how you're not going to get away. You're going to be dying the whole way. Off we go. But anyway, it was kind of interesting to see when I actually sat down and after the game, after we went through the whole sequence, he shared out. And it was shocking to find how many of his DMing decisions were there in bold in the rules, do this.
Sure.
And I was kind of like, aha, now I know what I'm up against here.
Yeah.
And then I was looking at the handbooks at that point, and I was like, man, this is so badly. Talk about the worst way to introduce this game.
Yeah.
If you're going to actually try and pitch this game to people, you are totally abandoning every one of its strengths. And I think this was at the end stage. I mean, they were even pretty much talking about canceling the game at that point or getting there. And it was pretty clear this was sort of their last marketing push on it. And that, and I think they basically just kicked back to the old 2E days. Okay, we got to get a Planescape out and, run people through, or even more so like the Dark Sun Rebellion. We're going to run everybody through it on lockstep. Multiple tables, multiple DMs, pump it out there. I was looking at it and going, no, this is not what I want to do with these. But, so cool. What do you think I should do? I don't know. The Tiefling and Githzerai and a few other things are actually specifically stated in the Wizards of the Coast SRD that you can't use them.
Product identity or something like that,
right.
Yeah.
And I have really been tempted more than once to write up the Barbaric Psychedelic as a playable unit. And ideally, basically saying, get this and that book from, 4E, or basically just carving out the pieces I want, and put them in my own words, and saying, look, this is, it's a 4E product, and I'm using the SRD to do it.
Right.
I'm going to do, and the trouble is, though, there are a couple of pieces that I'm not allowed to use. But I wonder if I could get permission. Not that Hasbro really even gives a shit about 4E material anyway, right?
Right.
But
there's no way to know what they'd react to there. I've had that thought. It's like,
I think
4E they've kind of walked away from. So if somebody were to come with
but they didn't walk away from Tieflings. They didn't walk away from Githzerai, right?
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, James. What were you going to say?
I guess the immediate thought would be talk to a copyright lawyer about that if you can't get permission. Second, this is a problem that in theory has been solved by the OSR, because there's been a lot of, or maybe not OSR necessarily, but like the whole D20 design. Yeah,
the OGL for D20, absolutely, right.
Yeah, and because there's a bunch of products out there that are like spherical eye monster with like eye beams, and who knows Dungeons and Dragons knows exactly what it is that spherical monster with eye beams like actually means. And no disrespect to the people who made that product, no one is using your fucking spherical monster with eye beams. They're downloading the goddamn monster manual and they're tearing the beholder page out of it, and they're using that for their game, right?
Right.
From a publishing standpoint, your particular product, whatever it is that they're doing, you need to have a D20 compliant stat block that is no longer publisher identity. But having done that, right, having created like this retro clone or this equivalent, you no longer you can just sort of toy about it in a natural play.
I could probably do that pretty easily for the Barbaric Psychedelic stuff. But it's kind of interesting. I'd want to see. I mean, it's conceivable that I would talk about what I wanted to do, and they would blink and say, "Hey, that's all good biz for us. You go right ahead. Here's the contract."
No, I could totally.
And
I mean, on the one hand, it's kind of a lot of what you want to do is here's a long list of all the bits you can pick for these different character classes at these different levels.
Right.
Go and look in their PDF that they will sell you on drive-through to find them.
I could do it that way, or it might be better to prune it for a lot of the reasons we talked about too.
No, absolutely. But it's still a long list of their theoretically copyrighted phrases, which is kind of
So it's an interesting point. I got distracted by other things, obviously, but it's one of those things that I'm always keeping in my head. One of these days, that acronym that I mentioned a bit ago, RAW.
Yeah.
It's just waiting, right? Just waiting.
You're coming up with 3-letter words. You're going to price every role-playing game ever wrong.
Well, yeah, but nobody's done it for this, and the idea being that it's also a bit of a. I love the dishonesty of the rulings not rules, mantra, and in many ways it's kind of a bit of a thumb in the eye to that. And it's like, well, yeah, except that these rules work.
Yeah.